So the White House today is saying that the new read on inflation is a sign that Bidenomics is working for Americans. Consumer prices rose for the second straight month, ticking up 0.2, and then you can see it up 0.6 in August. New data also showing that household incomes dropped for the third consecutive year when adjusted for inflation. So here's what the White House told Fox Business's Edward Lawrence. Watch.
We now have 2 inflation reports in a row where year over year the headline inflation number has gone up. You couple that with real average hourly wages are actually down since the day President Biden took office, about 3%. So is that Bidenomics?
Yeah, no, I think we have a disagreement on a fact there. In terms of the trend in inflation, I think we probably have a disagreement there as well. That graph that was just there showed a very clear trend in the year-over-year CPI. If you take the more timely, say, 3-month annualized average, then you see an even clearer result. Inflation is easing. It continues to ease.
Okay. Joining me now, Fox Business anchor David Asman and Jack Brewer, founder of the Jack Brewer Foundation and U.S. Social Status of Black Men and Boys Federal Commissioner. Great to have both of you with us. Obviously, there's a huge impact on the people of this country, and you can see it in a number of ways. But David, let me start with you. In terms of what he said, and you track these numbers very closely, so right. What is he talking about?
Well, Lawrence hit it right. I mean, the point is that since Biden's been in office, if we're going to categorize the success or failure of Bidenomics, you have to take it from that starting point, not before the pandemic. Real wages are down 3%. It's that simple. Prices haven't come down. They're just going up at a slower rate in certain things. They were bragging about how core inflation is not rising as quickly as it was before. Well, core inflation strips out energy and food. What are the 2 most important daily items that people need? Energy and food. That's what everybody's. That's why Americans totally disagree that Bidenomics is a success. They pick and choose certain figures to make it seem like the economy is better than what Americans feel.
Yeah. You know, it feels like it would be better, Jack, to go out there and say, look, we understand the problems. We see our approval numbers on the economy. They're low, 39%. Here's what we're doing to turn that around for you. Instead of trying to convince people that things are great when they know, I mean, at least what we see in the polling, that they feel like it isn't.
Yeah, and the American people know that, and they see that, and people aren't dumb. I mean, whenever you have a stat that just came out that says we have over 15 million Americans living in poverty, that should be a wake-up call. You should be on that podium trying to uplift people. And it's not about, those that have. Everyone that's rich and has the ability to pay for things, but the poorest of the poor in our nation. We have a 120% increase in childhood poverty. These numbers are through the roof. And they talk about, the child tax credits have been eliminated now since COVID. Even with those tax credits, we still would have had a 60% increase in childhood poverty in America. If I told you that 10 years ago or 15 years ago, you would have thought you're in a third world country. This is absolutely ridiculous. We have 18.6 million fatherless kids in America, which means all those kids are 5 times more likely to live in poverty. These are deep systemic issues that we must as a nation be prepared to address through addressing morality in our education system. These things run deep.
Yeah, they do run deep. And these are the kinds of subjects that need to be discussed in terms of when people say, how are we going to fix what's wrong with this country? You're exactly talking about the things that we can do to start to fix what's wrong in the country, because it's so structural and foundational in terms of what you're talking about, the family, working, the value of work, all of these things. Let's look at this.
Can I just build on one thing he said, which is just so fundamental? The idea of some things go beyond economics, beyond dollars and cents. The best success we had against childhood poverty in the past 50 years was when we went into workfare. Remember that? It was a bipartisan proposal under Democratic President Clinton with a Republican Congress, where we said, okay, if you're an able-bodied man, you should work for the assistance that the government is giving.
Yeah.
You should go out and get a job. You shouldn't get it for just laying around. That's part of what has happened since COVID, when we got rid of a lot of that extra welfare spending. We had a dramatic drop in childhood poverty right after, in the years following workfare. When workfare was put in place, we're trying to put that in place now. Of course, the president's not for it, Democrats aren't, but Republicans in Congress are.
Then you have
That's what the
dads who
debate
want to
is
come
about.
home and they're proud of the work that they're doing. They know that they're providing for their families, and it's a virtuous cycle that continues based on that. We don't hear anyone in leadership talk about the importance of this. But quickly, put up this outstanding credit card balances, because this is something I heard on Fox Business. This is so important because what they were saying was that prior generations would never have put this stuff on their credit card. They would have figured out ways to do without, right? How dangerous is this credit card addiction? And you can't blame people. They're trying to pay for things and keep the ball up in the air, Jack.
What's dangerous is those are basic needs on the majority of the credit cards, and that's what's hitting the soul of America. Is people are using it for basic food, basic shelter, basic clothing, and that's what makes it so scary. Is that we're now living in a society where we don't want to admit that inflation is having the impact that it is.
So,
And those, by the way, those rates are going up for credit
they
card
are.
debt as well.
I got to go so quickly. Are we going into a recession? We thought we got a soft landing.
Who knows? The jury's out, of course. Remember the last time I think we went into a recession, they didn't call it a recession.
2 consecutive quarters of
because we
negative
had
growth,
all
and
the extra
everyone's going,
jobs,
it's
so
not
who
really a
knows?
recession. All right, we will stay tuned. Thank you very much, Jack Brewer, David Asman.
Good to
Great
see
to
you.
have both of you with us, gentlemen. Thank you.